Hey guys, and welcome to a battle featuring two ducks, one myself in charge of the Knights of Caledor up against the legendary Poison Ducky and his Warriors of Chaos, who are some scary foes indeed. And this is a pretty weird matchup all round, so I thought I would try something a little bit different. Now this was from the best of 5, you've already seen one of the games previously on the channel from Red Legion's tournament not too long ago. And overall, Poison Ducky and me are relatively even matched. I think he's probably slightly better because he's a little bit more consistent. So I thought I'd have to, whip out a bit of a crazy build. So up in the front vanguard here, we do have 3 units of Illyrian Reaver Archers. These guys are simply here to counter Marauder Horsemasters. I want to get those thrown axes and javelins off the field as quickly as possible to protect my big beastie, who we will get to in just a moment. We have double Illyrian Reavers as well. They're going to be protecting the archers from any pesky hound play. And yeah, so a pretty decent, fast, mobile core overall. I've really become a big fan of Illyrian Reaver Archers in this matchup and against Norskans, simply to deal with enemy skirmish cavalry. Now, for our melee contingent, it's relatively hardcore, bad to the bones to be honest. Double white lines of chase in the front line with decent armor piercing all round. Should be able to deal with marauders relatively effectively and especially warriors of chaos. On either flank, we do have units of Sword Masters of Hoeth, some of the most elite infantry in the game. Sadly, you don't get to see them too often, but expect to know if my opponents brought Chosen or Warriors of Chaos, any of their heavily armoured troops, they can do decent work. Considering they have a very good AP as well, they at least can fend off some of the monsters as well. In the centre pocket, we do have a unit of Rangers with a single chevron. These guys' job is going to be to clear out any marauder chaff and chew through them as quickly as possible. And for our leadership core, we do have a Mage of Life coming in with Earthblood and Regrowth, as well as all her items to give me as much Winds of Magic as possible. The reason we have bought Regrowth and Earthblood is for the Dragon Prince himself, Imrik, looking glorious on top of his mighty Star Dragon here. He is going to be bringing the Star Lance, Dragon Horn, and his most important ability, Lord of Dragons. A really good debuff which can be popped on both characters and units. And I think actually popping on units is the better option 9 times out of 10. We also have, of course, come in with the Star Dragon Breath Attack. So a pretty small elite build all round, with a kind of a slow and ponderous build for the most part, and then a nice quick element of cav as well to try and pull apart my opponent. Now, for Poison Ducky's build, he has gone at triple Marauder Horseman, as I kind of expected. A fantastic counter to any big nasty dragons and the like. So I'm going to be focusing these guys down as quickly as possible. You can see in the front lines here, he does have the Everwatcher as his lord, who is a really good pick in most matchups. Come in, of course, with Standard Die, Arcane Conduit, Final Transmutation, which is very scary up against my elite build, and Plague of Rust. In his main battle line, though, he has gone cheerfully cheap here with a load of Chaos Marauders. These guys are just happy to be here. Looks like we have some great weapons on the flanks as well to help deal with cav. And yeah, happy to be here, can soak up missile fire and tear through spearmen and do decent work up against Sylvan Guard and the like. In the centre pocket, this is where things get very interesting and pretty damn scary for me. He does have the Summoners of Rage, Regiment of Renowned Dragon Ogres, who do have anti-large, so they're going to be beaming for Imrik wherever he does indeed land. We have some Marauders as well as Chaos Trolls, the armoured ones, who look incredibly cool. We don't get to see these models too often, who are protecting the Soul of Damnation, Regiment of Renowned Hell Cannon, which again, against my pretty elite build, is going to be some scary stuff. And topping off the build, we have just an awesome inclusion all around. The Chaos Giant. I know a lot of people don't like giants, but I think it can do some serious work. And it's a bit of a confusing pick as well. Maybe I haven't brought anything to deal with it, and it can be a little bit scary. So here we go, and the battle is underway as the Hell Cannon launches some shots directly into those white lines, killing 4 models off the bat. And we've done some decent damage though as well, trying to focus down the Marauder Horsemen at the same time. Unfortunately, these guys are on skirmish mode and not and on fire at will, sorry. So they do launch a few shots into the Everwatcher, doing a surprising amount of damage actually, considering the missile resistance. But for the most part, we are going to be forcing back the Horsemen, focusing them down and trying to push them away. We do slink into the back lines of our Illyrian Reavers as well. Poison Ducky, well aware of this, going to be moving back with some of his Marauders, as well as the Chicken, and even the Horsemasters are kind of tempted to flock back there. So we are going to kind of double back and swoop back round. As you can see, 1 unit of Marauder Horsemen down to below half health already, which is some really good stuff for me, but I'm trying to bomb rush as fast as possible, as that Hell Cannon is starting to tear through my lines quite aggressively. We do float over out to one side with Imrik just to try and entice in the horsemen into open ground so our Reaver archers can make them pay the price. But Poison Ducky not falling for it, simply gets forward, does one volley and falls back behind his lines, which is pretty infuriating. So I'm going to get aggressive here, pop into the flank with some Illyrian Reavers, charge in onto his unbraced Chaos Marauders because I hit them on the flank. And doing some pretty decent damage all round. Unfortunately, a little bit slow to get them out. And the Everwatcher does come in and start slapping up these Reavers with pretty decent work all round. So we are going to be falling back and pushing now forward with our white lines of chase. In the front lines, the Rangers do run ahead of the rest of our lads to force their way on top of the Marauders. And we do actually get the charge here, which is pretty damn huge. We should be able to chew through these guys incredibly quickly, despite the fact the Everwatcher has floated over. One unit of Swordmasters is completely unhurt by the Hell Cannon as it does charge into glorious combat, but they're going to see a nasty surprise here as the Summons of Rage do pop in. We do blow the Dragon Horn, giving plus 24 melee attack, but you're going to see these Swordmasters get absolutely devastated here by a combination of that Soul of Damnation, already up to 40 kills, as well as the Summoners of Rage. The Everwatcher got a little bit too close for comfort, so we did whack him one with Imrik, doing some pretty decent damage out of the gate before falling back and reassessing the situation. Illyrian Reavers still trying to focus down the Marauder Horsemen where possible. I want to get that threat off the field as quickly as possible. And over on the outflank, Swordmasters as well as White Lions are managing to force their way through into the back line. But unfortunately for them, these Chaos Trolls, even the Soul of Damnations, pushing into combat here. Before doing a 360 no-scope very accurately here into those Illyrian Reavers. The Giants looking pretty scary as well, can be floated into the back line. I go for a pretty risky breath attack. I kind of miscalculate. I need to be half an inch kind of back this way. I could have destroyed the Soul of Damnation with a breath attack, but we do actually miss it slightly and hit some of the Dwarven crew. So we are going to be floating over here, trying to use our added mobility and slaughter these Chaos Marauders with great weapons, free up the White Lines just to pull into the main engagement where possible. As you can see, that unit of Swordmasters who did get hammered by the Summoners of Rage are going to be able to rally here, hopefully, in the back lines and come back into the main fray. Our archers have switched targets at this point into the Summoners of Rage, realising they're the biggest threat now for our beloved Imrik, as the Horsemasters have kind of been scattered to the winds a little bit. A few of them are coming back into the main engagements now. I don't know if they actually want to tussle with the Illyrian Reavers in close combat. So over on this left-hand side, Marauders have been forced back, and Imrik is just floating around doing pretty decent work, trying to hunt down the Summoners of Rage, but in comes the Giant, as well as the Summoners and the Everwatcher. This is some scary stuff indeed for Imrik. And he's a little bit surrounded now and stuck on the ground. In the distance, my opponent doing a fantastic job here of chasing down routing troops and forcing back my Reavers with Horsemen, but at the same time, I'm not too upset with this. As long as these guys aren't in the main engagement, it's kind of going relatively well for me. Illyrian Reavers do break, but they should come back. The Swordmasters do help clear up these Horsemen. Unfortunately, they are getting focused down by that Hell Cannon. And a upgraded Final Transmutation gone down on the back line here. Destroy my White Lines, but more importantly, doing massive damage to Imrik, who's also trapped there for a second. He's going to get a regrowth, healing him up, and he does get back up into the skies, which is hugely key for me. So as you can see at this point in the battle, the balance of power is massively against me, and we do whiff a second breath attack. So pretty bad play by myself for those breath attacks so far. But overall, things are, not completely gone, despite the balance of power kind of telling us otherwise. So we do have some Swordmasters rallying to the field, as well as Illyrian Reavers. And Imrik is still a powerful beast, but he's going to have to, collect up all his High Elves, put them in his backpack, and carry them to victory here if we are going to succeed. So trying to use his added mobility, I'm going to isolate these Chaos Marauders with great weapons on the flank, save my Swordmasters, and just help out overall, trying to get that balanced power a little bit more back into the centre pocket. So we do manage to break these guys very quickly with a lovely tower out, and Illyrian Reavers are going to do some glorious cycle charging, which is something they're very good at. Even the archers can do okay impact. We're going to be flinging at these Chaos Marauders down to the ground and running them over, hopefully breaking them before they can turn around and do any damage back. At this point, Poison Ducky is rallying all his forces around the Hell Cannon. The longer this game goes on, the more chances he has for final transmutations and all that glorious stuff. At the same time, we are going to get a second regrowth off on Imrik, which is pretty damn key, up to over 3,000 hit points at this point. And this Giant does overextend a little bit, so we're going to go in for the kind of 1-2 punch here of healing ourselves up and slamming into this Giant. The Lord of Dragons has been popped, lowering the melee defense, although a nice stand or die does buff it back up to its usual stats. So we have Dragonhorn active as well as the Star Lance, pushing our melee attack up to 94 here. And Imrik is just an absolute world beater in these situations, and he's doing really fantastic work as the Chaos Giant is starting to struggle. Even the Mage of Life getting in here and poking down that giant as much as possible. So a battle of the Behemoths here, which, you know, is going relatively well for me at the moment. That giant is getting absolutely wrecked. Standard Eye has been lost and all the buffs have gone down, but Imrik, of course, is a mighty beast himself, so is his mighty dragon. And the Chaos Giant is really starting to struggle here. Looks like we are getting another final transmutation popping down though, however, but not an upgraded one this time, which does a significant amount less damage, but still catching so much of my army, really kind of making me pay the cost here. The giant does start to flee, but in come the Summoners of Rage. Still 7 models of these guys left, actually pull up short there a little bit, and these guys can still lay an absolute whipping down on Imrik if I'm not careful. At this point, we are going to be targeting the Chaos Trolls, realising they have very low leadership, and try to break them and force them off. So something I see a lot of players do in this situation. They wouldn't have gone after the Giant, instead they try to snipe out the enemy leader to get back into the game. I think it's much more important to snipe out, you know, the components of your opponent's build which actually do damage back to you. If I can take out the Trolls, take out the Giant, take out the Summoners of Rage, the Everwatch is not going to really be a problem for the mighty Imrik. So if it gets a little bit close like this, I'm going to turn around and slap him around. But if it goes into a big blob fight, I definitely want to target down his damage dealers, not his Lord. Speaking of which, though, we do go in for the Lord kill here and try our best to bring him down. But the Everwatcher is particularly canny and is going to float away here as Imrik's going to chase a little bit. We do have a lot of the High Elves forces rallying here in the distance, but our army is incredibly beat up at this point. Swordmasters and White Lions and Rangers all down to kind of the dregs of the units. And it's starting to look a little bit bleak once more, despite the fact that balanced power has come back into the middle. The Illyrian Reaver archers desperately trying their best to hunt down enemy routing troops where possible. The Mage of Life still just knocking around, trying to save up for some glorious Earthbloods. In come our Rangers going toe-to-toe with some Chaos Marauders, but Standard Diet has been popped, which is a little bit scary for me. Imrik looks like he can't make up his mind what he is going to be doing at this point. Just kind of floating around, and we do see a Chain Lightning coming down as well by Poison Ducky, trying to catch those Illyrian Reavers and White Lions on the charge in. So I'm going to pull back and dodge it for the most part before coming in to try and snipe the Chaos Trolls once more, with the same logic in mind that they have low leadership and get them off the field nice and quickly. Fortunately, that Chain Lightning is actually going to catch a ton of Marauders here, doing some pretty nasty friendly fire, which is useful for me. And now that the Chaos Trolls are terrified, we're going to be popping on the Summoners of Rage with a Lord of Dragons active as well, lowering all their stats to negate some of the damage I would be taking as well. It looks like the Chaos Trolls are starting to rout here, so we're going to be trying to chase them back with the Illyrian Reavers as well as the Mage of Life. I believe they do get caught up on these Chaos Marauders, which is a bit unfortunate. It looks like the Reavers actually decide to flee, which is a little bit worrying because there's still 7 armoured Chaos Trolls, and of course they do have regeneration. We have managed to break the Summoners of Rage here and force them back before getting a lovely Earthblood of once more on top of Imrik. Now at this point, looking at the battle back, I could probably attempt to snipe the Everwatch. At this point, he has no supporting forces. I'm trying to be extra careful at this point. I've, this battle's kind of been teetering back and forth multiple times, so I don't want to give my opponent any, second chances. So I'm going to be chasing off these Chaos Trolls with the Mage and bringing Imrik over to snipe out the Summoners of Rage and force them off the battlefield. The Hell Cannon is still active, up to 92 kills, which is pretty damn impressive, considering how elite my force is. Illyrian Reaver's going to be trying to pop in here to try and break some units and the like. They themselves are going to get forced off as well. So at this point, we do have 8 models remaining up against 117, which is pretty scary stuff. And 6 of those models, I believe, are just going to be Illyrian Reavers fleeing in the distance. So realistically, it's come down to Imrik and my glorious Mage of Life here, who are just finishing off some Chaos Marauders. Up against a rather kind of battered force of Chaos. At this point, it's looking pretty good for me. It's kind of turned around quite nicely. Chaos Marauders and Horsemen aren't going to do any damage at all. My one fear here is that if the Sword of Damnation gets a few good hits on Imrik and the Everwatcher has enough for an upgraded Final Transmutation, this could be the end, as a Final Transmutation does huge amounts of work and that huge burst damage could force me off the field. So we are going to fast forward it a little bit here as we do approach. A lot of his army does, luckily for me, shatter, so he is just left with his unbreakable troops, as chasing off those units actually kind of really helps break up his army. So in comes a Lord of Dragons on the Everwatcher, doing some pretty decent stat debuffing overall. And in comes the Mage of Light as well, desperately fighting toe-to-toe against this gigantic beast, trying to skewer it on the edge of the Star Lance. It looks like a final transmutation is going to be coming down here. A big breath attack to the face ends the Everwatcher's reign and saves me from that final transmutation. At this point, I'm pretty sure I could have survived it, but we are, down to about half health. If it was an overcast one, perhaps, it could have gone the other way around and my forces could have been broken off. So very well played to Poison Ducky there. We'll do a tiny bit of analysis. So just a heads up, guys, we were going to do a stream today, which I announced in the last video. That's been delayed slightly as we actually, it's kind of a big celebration for hitting 1,000 subs. So I've got a lot of prizes which are currently being designed, prizes and giveaways and that type of stuff. But they've not arrived yet, they're still kind of being designed and created. So once they do get in, we'll come back with the celebration. But anyway, massive shout out to Poison Ducky. He's a true gent, really awesome player as well, and a content creator. I highly recommend going and checking out his channel. He puts out some really good content. Now, you may have seen him lose on my channel a couple of times recently, simply because of this best of 5 I was kind of really on form. But Poison Ducky is a very good player. As I said earlier on, very evenly matched, but much more consistent than me. I'm kind of on my day, I can beat players that I have no right to beat. But also, if it's not my day, I can get hammered by, players that I should kind of comfortably beat. So overall, really good tournament player and a really fun build as well. It's always interesting to see the Giant in action. And he's one of the few players who loves Chaos Trolls as well. Always good to see their models. And 92 kills on that Hell Cannon was really horrendous stuff. As for my build, the Lyran Reaver Archers were a really key component. I absolutely love these guys. Driving back the Marauder Horsemen, ensuring they can't get their priority target, which is Imrik. And then pretty much Imrik carried the day here. The Mage of Life may be the MVP for popping off those 2 regrowths when things were looking incredibly bad. But as I said again during the battle, what you need to do with someone like Imrik, you don't try and assassinate the enemy lord unless it's 100% on and 100% certain, in which case it's a really good idea. What you want to do is hunt down their kind of bodyguard units they normally hold nearby, their kind of anti-large Summoners of Rage, the Giant, those type of units, finish them off, and then they're not going to be a threat for you in the late game. At least that's my kind of feelings behind it. Same situation when you come up against Lizardmen and they have, Mazda Mundi and a Carnosaur. Snipe the Carnosaur, don't snipe Mazda Mundi. He's just far too tanky, it takes way too much time, and the whole time you're trying to snipe the tanky unit, the damage dealer is dealing that damage. So that's just my 2 cents on it, I suppose. Anyway, guys, hope you did enjoy. If you did, feel free to drop a big old thumbs up, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff. If you want to see your replays on the channel, feel free to join my Discord. We host tournaments on there as well. There is indeed going to be one tomorrow at 4 PM BST with the semi-finals and finals, which are going to be cast here on the channel. So I look forward to that. Anyway, guys, until next time, peace, and as always, stay awesome.